Jordan West had always prided himself on his ability to remain composed even in the most uncomfortable situations he had faced growing up in a neighborhood where success was rare and hard earned, but he learned early on that being calm and controlled could get him far in life. It wasn't until he made his fortune in tech that he realized just how much the world around him still operated on assumptions and prejudices, even in spaces he thought would be immune to it. As he walked up to the entrance of the Regency Grand, the luxurious hotel he had booked for his stay, he couldn't help but admire the sleek modern design of the building, the towering glass windows reflecting the bright city lights of New York City, a place he considered home for many years now. Yet as he stepped inside the lobby, his first encounter with the front desk receptionist was enough to shake his confidence. It wasn't the look of disbelief in her eyes when she glanced up at him, nor the unspoken judgment that seemed to hang in the air. It was the way she greeted him, or rather didn't she barely looked up from the computer screen when she asked for his name with a tone that suggested he was just another businessman here for a few nights, a nameless face among many. Jordan smiled politely, offering his reservation details. With the same calm demeanor, he always carried no need to raise his voice or demand special treatment, yet when the receptionist began to type furiously at the keyboard, her expression shifted from disinterest to confusion, and then frustration. After a few moments, she finally glanced up once more and told him that his reservation had somehow been lost. But that wasn't possible. Jordan had made the booking weeks ago, personally confirming every detail with the hotel's concierge when he had arranged the trip. But she was already offering him a false sympathy that felt forced and unconvincing. She mentioned that the hotel was fully booked with no available rooms and suggested he check back the following day. Jordan's calm exterior wavered for just a second as he tried to reason with her, but her response was unwavering. It was clear she wasn't interested in helping him, and though he remained polite, his patience began to wear thin. After another brief back and forth, he excused himself from the front desk and made his way out of the lobby, the door slamming shut behind him with a quiet finality. As he walked away from the Regency Grand, Jordan's thoughts raced, but he maintained his composure. It wasn't just the inconvenience of losing his reservation or the frustration of having nowhere to stay. It was the underlying feeling he couldn't shake, the recognition that he was being dismissed not because of who he was, but because of how he was perceived in that moment. The thought lingered in his mind as he made his way to the car parked nearby, when his assistant Lily greeted him with a concerned look. She could see it in his eyes. Something had happened, but he said nothing about the encounter at first, only asking her to research the ownership and history of the hotel. She nodded, understanding the silent signal that something deeper was at play. And as the car sped off into the night, Jordan knew this wasn't an issue that could be ignored. This would be something that needed to be fixed. Jordan sat quietly in the back of the car, staring out the window as the city lights blurred by. His mind was racing, but his face remained calm and composed. Lily, his assistant, sat beside him, her eyes flicking over to him every now and then, sensing the tension that filled the space between them. It wasn't just the frustration of a canceled reservation or the inconvenience of needing a place to stay. Jordan had faced rejection before, but this felt different. This wasn't about missing out on a room at an overpriced hotel. This was about something deeper. The dismissive attitude of the receptionist, the way she had assumed he didn't belong, that was the real issue. It was the subtle reminder that in the eyes of some, no matter how much money you had, no matter how successful you were, you could still be treated like an outsider. Jordan let out a slow breath, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest. He was no stranger to the biases that existed in society, had faced them growing up in boardrooms and even in the tech world, where he'd had to prove himself again and again. But this felt more personal. This was a reminder of the barriers that still existed, even in places that were meant to be welcoming and inclusive. He wasn't just angry about the treatment, he was disappointed. The world wasn't supposed to work this way, not in the 21st century. But here he was, once again reminded that things weren't as equal as they seemed. Lily finally broke the silence, her voice cautious. "Are you okay?" she asked, her tone soft yet knowing. Jordan glanced over at her, offering a small nod. "I'm fine. Just processing." "You've been through worse," Lily continued, her eyes narrowing slightly. You know I'd handle this. You could make a phone call, demand an apology, get them to fix it. They'd probably offer you a free night or something. Jordan shook his head. That's not enough. It's not about a free night, Lily. It's about the principle of it. The way they treated me. They didn't even give me a chance. It's not just about me. It's about the way people like us, people who look like us, are seen and dismissed without even a second thought. Lily was silent for a moment, then nodded. She understood. Jordan wasn't a man to let things slide, especially when it came to matters of respect. But this time, he didn't want a simple apology. He wanted something more, something that would send a message, not just to the Regency Grand, but to the entire hospitality industry. It was time to change the game. Look, I've already started looking into it, Lily said, pulling out her phone. I found the hotel's ownership structure. It's owned by a group of investors, but the main player is a guy named Clarence Hawkins. He's the majority shareholder. He doesn't have much of a public profile, but he's been in the hotel industry for years. Jordan's eyes lit up with interest. Hawkins, huh? Is he known for being involved in any other businesses? Lily tapped her screen, scrolling through the information. He's primarily in the hospitality sector. A lot of smaller luxury properties. His business partners are well known, but he keeps a low profile. There's nothing too controversial about him, but if you want, I can dig deeper. Jordan's lips curved into a smile. No need. I already have a plan. Lily raised an eyebrow. What kind of plan? I'm going to buy the hotel. Jordan said, his voice calm but firm. I'm going to buy the Regency Grand, and when I do, I'll change the way they treat people, everyone, starting with their staff, their policies, and the way they think about who belongs in a place like that. Lily stared at him, her jaw slightly dropped. You're serious? Jordan nodded, his gaze focused. Absolutely. I'll make them understand. Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been overlooked or treated unfairly because of who they are. The car turned onto a quieter street, and the weight of Jordan's words hung in the air between them. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about the hotel. It was about something bigger, about making a point that the world needed to hear. Jordan had the power, the resources, and the will to make a real change, and he wasn't about to let this opportunity pass him by. The next few hours were a blur of activity. As the car pulled into Jordan's sleek Manhattan penthouse, he wasted no time diving into the details of his plan. His assistant Lily, always quick to follow his lead, had already compiled the necessary documents on Clarence Hawkins and the Regency Grand. The wealth of information at their disposal was enough to take down a small empire, but Jordan wasn't interested in taking down Hawkins. He was interested in changing the system that allowed places like the Regency Grand to operate with such disregard for people like him. All right, let's break this down, Jordan said, his eyes scanning the documents in front of him. Clarence Hawkins and his partners hold about 75% of the shares in the Regency Grand's parent company. The rest is split between a few silent investors who have little say in the hotel's operations. Hawkins is the key here. If we get to him, we can get the deal done quickly. Lily nodded, tapping her tablet. It's not going to be easy, though. Hawkins has made a lot of money in the industry, and his reputation is solid. He's not someone who's likely to sell out of nowhere, especially not to a guy like you. Jordan leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. It's not about selling out. It's about the right price. We're going to make him an offer he can't refuse. His phone buzzed, and he glanced down at the screen. It was a text from his lawyer, Marcus Stone, confirming the availability of their legal team to begin negotiations the following day. Jordan's mind shifted into high gear as he formulated the next steps. Get Marcus on a line, Jordan instructed Lily, his eyes narrowing with intent. We need to make sure our offer is perfect. I want to meet Hawkins face to face. I want him to know exactly who's buying the hotel. Lily made the call and handed the phone to Jordan. Marcus, he greeted with a tone that was both businesslike and cordial. We need to move fast on this. I want to buy the Regency Grand, and I want the offer to be clean, simple, and above market value. No low balling. We're not just buying a hotel. We're buying the opportunity to make a statement. Marcus's voice came through with a slight chuckle. I figured this was coming. All right, I'll have my team put together the paperwork. We'll offer Hawkins a sum that's hard to turn down. I'll get in touch with his people and set up a meeting. Good, Jordan replied. I want to move on this as quickly as possible. No games. As the conversation wrapped up, Jordan looked over at Lily. Once we get the deal signed, I want to move forward with the changes immediately. I'm not just buying a luxury hotel, I'm buying the chance to change the industry. It's time to shake things up. Lily couldn't help but smile. You've always had a way of making things happen, Jordan. But this is big. You're really going to do this. Jordan stood up, his gaze fixed on the skyline outside his window. It's bigger than just me. It's about setting a new standard, about making sure that when someone walks into a place like that, they're treated the same, no matter who they are or where they come from. The way I was treated yesterday, that's got to stop. Lily stood beside him, her expression one of quiet admiration. I know this is important to you, and I think you're going to make a difference. Jordan nodded, his mind already racing ahead to the next step. The money, the legalities, they were just details. The real work was going to be changing the culture of the place, making sure that every guest, no matter their background or appearance, would be treated with the respect they deserved. This wasn't just about taking control of the hotel. It was about something much bigger than that. Let's get it done, he said, his voice steady and resolute. The wheels were already in motion. The next day, Jordan sat in his office, reviewing the final details of the purchase. His legal team had gone over the documents, the financial reports, and the projections. It was all set. The offer was generous, far beyond what the Regency Grand was worth. But Jordan wasn't just buying a hotel. He was sending a message. The hotel's owner, Clarence Hawkins, had agreed to a meeting later that afternoon, and Jordan knew this was his moment. He had prepared every angle, every argument, and he was ready to make his case. This wasn't going to be a typical business negotiation. It was going to be a statement of intent. As Jordan and his lawyer, Marcus Stone, walked into the conference room at Hawkins' private office, he could already sense the tension. Hawkins, a stout man in his late 50s, sat at the head of a large table, flanked by two of his associates. He gave Jordan a cursory nod, his face hard to read, but Jordan could tell he wasn't used to people making bold offers to him. Not like this. Hawkins had built his fortune on calculated moves, investments, and maintaining an air of exclusivity around his properties. He had always catered to a very specific clientele, wealthy, elite, and, most importantly, selective. Jordan took a seat across from Hawkins and opened the folder in front of him. Clarence, I won't waste your time. I know you've worked hard to build this hotel, but I'm here to offer you a deal you can't turn down. Hawkins raised an eyebrow but didn't interrupt. He simply gestured for Jordan to continue. You see, the Regency Grand isn't just a luxury hotel. It's a symbol, and not just a symbol of wealth, but of the kind of exclusivity that keeps people out based on assumptions. Jordan said, his voice calm yet firm. I'm offering you a price that's well above market value, but it's not about the money. It's about what comes next. Hawkins leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. And what exactly is it that comes next? Jordan didn't hesitate. I'm going to change the culture of this hotel. I'm going to make sure that no one, no matter their background, color, or appearance, is treated like I was yesterday. That kind of exclusivity, where people are turned away without being given a chance, is over. There was a brief silence. Hawkins studied Jordan's face, trying to gauge his sincerity. His associates exchanged glances, clearly unsure of where this conversation was going. You're telling me you want to buy the hotel just to change the culture? That's not a business plan, Jordan, Hawkins said, his voice dripping with skepticism. You're talking about idealism, not profitability. What makes you think that your changes will work? This hotel has been successful because of the very exclusivity you want to get rid of. Jordan smiled, understanding the skepticism. He knew Hawkins wouldn't get it right away. He wasn't just selling a hotel. He was selling a vision. It's not about the exclusivity, Clarence. It's about the people who are left out of that exclusivity. This hotel, Under my ownership will be a place where anyone, no matter who they are, feels welcome. And that kind of change isn't just good for business, it's good for the city, for the industry, for the future. The room was quiet for a moment, the weight of Jordan's words hanging in the air. Marcus Stone, sitting next to Jordan, was looking intently at Hawkins. The offer on the table was clear. It wasn't just about money. It was about shifting the culture of an entire industry. Hawkins shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had built his empire on principles that were far removed from Jordan's vision, but the price was undeniable. Jordan had made him an offer he couldn't ignore. Hawkins finally broke the silence with a resigned sigh. "All right, Jordan," he said, his voice much quieter now. "I'll accept your offer, but you're right. This is a big shift, and I don't know if it'll work." Jordan's smile was calm and assured. "Don't worry. It will. And when it does, it won't just be good for the hotel. It'll change the way people think about hospitality." With a handshake, the deal was done. Hawkins, though reluctant, knew he had just sold his stake in something that could very well become the most talked about property in the city. As Jordan stood up, ready to move forward with his vision, he knew the real work was only beginning. The Regency Grand would soon be his, but it wasn't just about owning a hotel. It was about changing the narrative for good. The next morning, the official transfer of ownership was completed. Jordan stood in front of the Regency Grand, a building he had once been denied access to, now under his control. It felt surreal, almost like a dream, but the task ahead was far from simple. Jordan knew that this wasn't just about changing a hotel's policies or interior design. It was about reimagining what luxury and hospitality could mean in a world where bias and exclusivity had too long reigned. His first day at the Regency Grand was spent with his new team. Lily had organized an emergency staff meeting, inviting every employee to gather in the grand ballroom. The room was filled with a mix of anticipation and confusion. The staff had been informed that the hotel had been sold, but they weren't told who the new owner was until Jordan himself stepped onto the stage. The murmurs died down as Jordan, in his signature tailored suit, walked to the front of the room. His presence was commanding, but there was a warmth in his eyes that instantly put everyone at ease. He knew that the success of this change would depend on the people who worked here. If they didn't buy into his vision, it would be impossible to succeed. "Good morning, everyone," Jordan began, his voice calm but firm. "I'm Jordan West, and as of yesterday, I am the new owner of the Regency Grand." There was a collective gasp around the room. Whispers spread like wildfire, and Jordan allowed the moment to sink in before continuing. "I know that many of you have worked here for years, and that you've seen this hotel change and evolve in ways that reflect the industry's focus on wealth and exclusivity," he said. "I'm here to tell you that things are going to change. I'm not here to tear this place down, but to build it up into a space that's welcoming to everyone, no matter who they are, where they come from, or how they look." Some of the staff exchanged skeptical looks. Jordan could see the doubts on their faces. For many of them, the Regency Grand had always been a symbol of something elite and unattainable. The idea of making it a space that welcomed all people felt radical, even unrealistic. "I know that might sound a little strange, but here's the truth," Jordan continued. "We've been operating in an era where status and appearance were often more important than the quality of service we provided. We've seen the way certain groups are treated better than others, not based on their value as a person, but on their wallet or their image. We're going to stop that here. We're going to offer luxury to everyone, not just a select few. And I believe that will make us the best in the city." There was a long pause. Jordan could hear the tension in the room. But slowly, one by one, some of the employees began to nod, their faces softening. They were beginning to understand that Jordan wasn't just making a vague promise. He was offering a vision, one that would challenge everything they had been taught about service in class. "I'm here to do something different. I know it's a big shift, and I know it's going to take time. But I'm asking you to believe in this vision with me. We're going to create an experience here that's about quality service, about respect, and about creating a place where everyone feels like they belong." Jordan paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. He could see a few of the staff members whispering to each other, their skepticism slowly melting away. "I'm not here to micromanage," he added. "You all are the backbone of this hotel. You know how to make it run smoothly. But I want you to be a part of this change. From now on, we'll be hiring based on character, not appearance. We'll be training our staff to treat every guest equally, no matter their background. And most importantly, we'll be ensuring that the Regency Grand is known as a place where luxury meets inclusivity." Jordan's eyes swept across the room, making eye contact with the staff members who seemed the most unsure. "You don't have to believe me just yet, but over the next few weeks, I'm going to show you the kind of place we can build together. If you're with me, I'm with you." There was a long silence before a few hands tentatively rose, followed by others. One by one, the staff members began to stand and clap. The room buzzed with a new energy, hope, curiosity, and a sense of excitement about what was to come. Jordan knew that winning their trust was just the first step, but it was a powerful one. The next few weeks would be crucial. As the meeting ended and the staff dispersed, Jordan stood for a moment in the center of the ballroom, a small but satisfied smile on his face. This was just the beginning. But for the first time in a long while, he felt like he was on the right path, a path that would not only change the Regency Grand, but the way luxury was defined in the world. The changes at the Regency Grand started to take shape more quickly than Jordan had anticipated. The staff, now on board with the vision, began to transform the hotel's culture from the inside out. Training programs were set up for employees at all levels, focusing on empathy, inclusivity, and high-quality service that didn't prioritize wealth or appearance. Jordan was hands-on in these early days, attending staff meetings, speaking directly with department heads, and even shadowing bellhops and concierges to understand the challenges they faced. He wasn't just an owner. He was a leader, invested in the hotel's mission. The changes weren't just in the training rooms. Jordan and his team worked diligently to overhaul the hotel's branding, removing any imagery or language that suggested exclusivity based solely on status. The word exclusive was slowly erased from the hotel's marketing materials, replaced with phrases like welcoming all guests and luxury for every traveler. The Regency Grand would no longer cater only to those who could afford to flaunt their wealth. It would cater to anyone seeking genuine, thoughtful hospitality. By the time the hotel's grand reopening arrived, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. The Regency Grand had once been a fortress for the elite, but now it felt like a space that belonged to the city, a place where anyone could feel at home. Jordan's vision was slowly becoming a reality. The reopening event was a pivotal moment. Invitations had been sent to a mix of New York's elite and local influencers, people who had previously felt excluded from such spaces. The guest list included those from diverse backgrounds: artists, entrepreneurs, community leaders, and regular New Yorkers who had no access to places like the Regency Grand before. As the evening unfolded, Jordan watched the crowds mingle, the buzz in the air, and the genuine excitement of people who knew they were part of something historic. Lily was by his side, observing the event. "It's working, Jordan," she said, smiling as a group of guests walked past, laughing together. "You've really changed things." Jordan surveyed the room, nodding slowly. "It's just the beginning. But seeing these people connect, people who would have never been allowed in the same space before, it feels like we're doing the right thing." As the evening wore on, Jordan couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had known that changing the culture of a place like the Regency Grand wouldn't be easy. But this event, the first tangible proof that his ideas were working, filled him with a deep satisfaction. He had spent years building his tech empire, but this felt different. It wasn't just about making money or conquering an industry. It was about changing perceptions, creating opportunities, and making a lasting impact on a community. As the night wound down, Jordan spotted Clarence Hawkins of the bar, looking somewhat out of place among the new crowd. He was holding a glass of whiskey, his posture stiff and uninviting, clearly still grappling with the transformation he had reluctantly signed off on. Jordan walked over, offering a calm but friendly smile. "Clarence," Jordan greeted, extending his hand. I'm glad you could make it. Hawkins looked at him for a moment before shaking his hand. I didn't think I'd see so many different types of people here, he remarked, his tone a mixture of surprise and slight discomfort. Jordan chuckled. You're not the only one. But that's exactly what I wanted to happen. The Regency Grand should reflect New York, all of New York, not just the part of it people want to see. Hawkins studied him for a moment. I'm not sure if I completely understand your vision, Jordan, but I'll admit, this is something. Jordan smiled, a little more genuinely now. It's only the beginning, Clarence. There's a lot more to come. As the night ended, the guests were still buzzing with excitement, talking about the changes and the new vibe that had taken over the Regency Grand. People who had once felt like outsiders now belonged, and they felt empowered by the experience. Jordan's commitment to inclusivity was paying off in ways he hadn't even imagined, and the future of the hotel looked brighter than ever. Later that night, as he stood alone on the hotel's rooftop terrace, Jordan allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The city stretched out before him, filled with the hum of life, busy, vibrant, and diverse. He had worked hard to get here, but now he could feel that his work was only just beginning. The Regency Grand would be a beacon of change, showing the world that true luxury wasn't about exclusion. It was about embracing all people, making everyone feel worthy of high-quality service, and creating an experience that transcended status. For the first time in a long while, Jordan felt that his purpose was clear and the future was full of promise. In the weeks following the grand reopening, the Regency Grand became the talk of the town. The media buzzed with excitement over the new direction Jordan West had taken the iconic hotel, and the word spread quickly. The public, at first skeptical, began to embrace the changes. The hotel, once a symbol of exclusivity, was now a shining example of hospitality where anyone, from the city's wealthiest moguls to its everyday citizens, could feel like royalty. Jordan's vision was being realized more fully with each passing day. The lines at the front desk were no longer filled with wealthy patrons flaunting their status. They were filled with people of all backgrounds, each with a different story, but united in their desire to experience something new. Jordan's commitment to equality had paid off. The hotel's staff, many of whom had been unsure at first, now embraced the transformation with open arms. They wore their new uniforms with pride, knowing that they weren't just part of a hotel, they were part of a movement. Jordan spent more time at the hotel, overseeing the changes, but also taking time to connect with guests, listening to their stories, and making sure the vision was being executed at every level. One day, while making his rounds, he met a young woman named Emma, a freelance artist from the Bronx who had always dreamed of staying at the Regency Grand, but had never been able to afford it. Thank you for making this possible, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. I've never been anywhere like this before. I can't believe I'm actually staying here. Jordan smiled, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. I'm glad you're here. This hotel is for people like you. Emma looked at him curiously. I heard you changed everything about this place. I mean, I used to hear all kinds of things about the Regency, how it was only for the rich and famous. But now it feels different, like you're trying to make a place where anyone can belong. Jordan nodded. That's exactly it. This place should feel like home for everyone, no matter their background or what they can afford. I want people to walk through those doors and feel like they matter. As Emma toured the hotel, Jordan was struck by her words. She represented so many people who had been excluded from such spaces, and now they were finally being given the opportunity to experience true luxury without feeling out of place. It was a powerful reminder of why he'd embarked on this journey in the first place. The Regency Grand had become more than just a hotel. It was a symbol of change, of inclusivity, and of a new era of hospitality. Jordan knew that the road ahead would not be without challenges. There would always be those who resisted change, those who felt uncomfortable with the idea of a level playing field, but he was prepared for that. In the weeks that followed, Jordan worked on expanding his reach. He met with other hotel owners, restaurateurs, and community leaders, sharing his vision for a more inclusive industry. Many were still hesitant, unsure whether such a radical shift could work on a larger scale. But Jordan knew that one successful example would be enough to inspire others. He wasn't trying to change the world all at once. He was simply trying to show that it was possible to do things differently. One afternoon, as Jordan sat in the hotel's luxurious rooftop lounge overlooking the city, Lily joined him with a smile on her face. "I've been keeping track of the reviews," she said, sitting down beside him. "You're going to like this. They're all overwhelmingly positive. People are talking about the inclusivity, the service, and the genuine warmth they feel when they walk in. It's working." Jordan leaned back, his eyes following the city skyline. The buildings stretched far into the distance, each one a symbol of ambition and success. But now, in his mind, the most important building was the one beneath him, the Regency Grand, standing as a testament to what was possible when you put people first. "That's good to hear," Jordan said quietly, his thoughts momentarily distant. "But we're not done yet. There's more work to do. This is just the beginning." Lily looked at him, sensing his determination. "What's next?" Jordan turned to her, his eyes sharp with purpose. "Next, we take this model and bring it to other cities. We show the world that luxury doesn't have to come at the expense of kindness, equality, or respect. We create a new standard. We make sure that everyone who walks into a place like this knows that they matter." Lily smiled. "And I have no doubt you'll make it happen." Jordan's gaze remained steady, focused on the horizon. The road ahead was still long, but with each step, he was reshaping the future of hospitality. He wasn't just a billionaire anymore. He was a catalyst for change, and the world was starting to take notice. Months passed, and the Regency Grand's success continued to grow, with bookings reaching unprecedented numbers. The changes Jordan had implemented had not only attracted a diverse clientele, but had also set a new benchmark for the industry. The hotel's mission of inclusivity was no longer seen as a radical idea. It had become the gold standard for luxury and hospitality. More hotels across the country began to adopt similar practices, inspired by the success of the Regency Grand. But Jordan knew that this was just the beginning. One evening, as he sat at a private dinner with a group of influential hotel executives, the conversation turned to the future of the industry. Many of the executives had watched Jordan's transformation of the Regency Grand from a distance, some skeptical, others admiring. But now there was no denying it. The Regency Grand had disrupted the status quo in a way that no one could ignore. "I have to admit," one of the executives, Thomas Green, said, leaning in with a thoughtful expression, "when I first heard about what you were doing with the Regency Grand, I thought you were crazy. But now, looking at your results, I'm starting to believe you were onto something. You've changed the way people think about luxury." Jordan nodded, his expression calm but determined. Luxury isn't just about exclusivity anymore. It's about accessibility, respect, and offering people an experience they can't get anywhere else. When you focus on making everyone feel welcome, you create a space where everyone feels valued. That's the true luxury. Another executive, a woman named Rachel Pierce, chimed in. "I'm seeing that firsthand in my own properties. When we began implementing similar changes, we noticed a rise in customer loyalty. People feel like they belong. They trust us more." Jordan smiled. "That's the key. It's not about catering to the richest people in the room. It's about understanding what people truly want: genuine connection, authenticity, and an experience that makes them feel seen." The room fell quiet as the conversation continued. Jordan had long been seen as a tech mogul, someone who had reshaped the digital world. But now he was carving out a new legacy in hospitality, a legacy built on compassion, inclusivity, and fairness. He wasn't just about profits, he was about purpose. After the dinner, as the executives departed and Jordan remained in the quiet of the hotel's rooftop lounge, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him here. It had all started with a single moment of rejection, a night when he had been denied entry to a hotel because of who he was. But that rejection had sparked something in him, a fire to not only prove his worth, but to change the way the world viewed luxury and hospitality. Jordan was no longer just the billionaire owner of a hotel. He was a symbol of what was possible when you dared to challenge the norms. And now, as he looked out over the city, he realized that his impact was bigger than he had ever imagined. The Regency Grand was just the beginning. He had bigger plans. One city at a time, Jordan muttered to himself, thinking of all the other hotels he could transform. His vision was clear. He would build an empire where inclusivity was at the heart of every business decision. Whether it was in New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago, he would make sure that every hotel, every space he touched, reflected the core values that had made the Regency Grand a success. The next morning, Jordan boarded a private jet bound for Los Angeles. He had meetings lined up with investors, hotel owners, and city leaders. His mission was clear: spread the message, scale his model, and continue changing the face of luxury. As he looked out of the window, watching the cityscape disappear behind him, he knew that the work wasn't done. The Regency Grand had proven that change was possible, but now it was time to make sure that change was permanent. He wasn't just a businessman anymore. He was a movement, and the world was ready for it. The future, Jordan knew, was limitless, and he was just getting started.